This is what an interviewer asked Bill Gates. His response surprised everyone. This is a story about one of the richest billionaires in the world, Bill Gates. Bill Gates is a software developer and philanthropist. He is most famous as the co-founder of the Microsoft Corporation. From 1995 to 2017, Bill Gates held the title of the richest person in the world for most of the years. This is reportedly a story from one of his interviews during that time. He was giving an interview for a news channel. During the interview, he was posed a rather interesting question. The interviewer asked him, "Is there anyone richer than you in the world?" People anticipated his response in silence. Of course, he was the richest person in the world and there was no one richer than him. But Bill Gates smiled and answered. He said, "Yes, there is someone who is richer than me." The interviewer was surprised by this response. Who could that be? Everyone wondered. And who is that person? He asked. Bill Gates then told this story. This was when Bill Gates was quite young and not rich and famous at all. He had graduated and was coming up with new ideas for his Microsoft project. On that day, he was at a New York airport. That's when he saw a newspaper vendor. He picked up a copy of a newspaper but found that he didn't have small change to pay for it. So, he put the newspaper back and was about to walk away. That's when the vendor said, "You can take the newspaper. I am giving it to you for free." Gates initially refused, but when the vendor insisted, he agreed to take it. About 3 months later, the exact same thing happened. Bill Gates landed at the airport and didn't find enough change for a newspaper. So, the vendor generously handed him the copy for free. Once again, Gates refused to accept it. The vendor said, "Please take it. I'm offering it to you from my profit. I won't run at loss if I gave a newspaper for free." And so, Gates graciously accepted the copy, thanked him, and walked away. It took 19 more years for him to become wealthy and world famous. Once again, he returned to that airport in New York. That's when old memories came rushing back to him. He wanted to meet the newspaper vendor and started looking for him. But he was nowhere to be found. It took Bill Gates almost a month and a half to finally locate the man. Gates met him and asked, "Do you know who I am?" The man laughed and said, "Of course, I do. You are Bill Gates, the richest man in the world. Do you remember that you gave me a newspaper for free?" he asked. The vendor looked a little surprised and uneasy. After taking a while, he mumbled, "Yes, I do remember. I gave you 2 newspapers for free." Bill Gates nodded and said, "Well, now I can repay you for your act of kindness. Ask me for whatever you want and I will give it to you." The vendor looked taken aback and hesitated. Slowly, he began to speak. "But sir, don't you think that whatever you do now won't match my help?" he asked, politely. Now, it was Gates' turn to be perplexed. "Why not?" he asked. The vendor replied, "I had helped you when I was a poor newspaper vendor. And you are trying to help me now after you have become the richest man in the world. How can your help match mine?" That day, Bill Gates realized that the newspaper vendor was richer than he was. Winding up his story, Bill Gates said to the interviewer, "That newspaper vendor is definitely richer than I am." He continued, "That man didn't wait to become rich to help someone. People need to understand that the truly rich are those who possess a rich heart rather than lots of money." This humbling story became very famous on the internet and was attributed to Bill Gates by many online reports. Regardless of the truth, the story is a great reminder of kindness to everyone in the world. As Charlie Chaplin once said, "We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness." Before wanting to be rich and famous, we must first aspire to be a kind human being.